I would like you to travel with me not to this coming summer, but to Christmas and to the reading of Dickens' Christmas Carol. Today we're going to visit VBS past, VBS present, and we're going to dream and scheme into VBS future. So let's start with our past experience. This is something I'd like you to do on your own. Just think back as I give you a few things to think about. So what are your past experiences with VBS? Are they positive? Are they frazzled? Do you just want it over every year? Are you nervous about how it's going to go? How it's gone before? What preconceived notions do you have about how VBS is supposed to go? To you, what makes the perfect VBS that you've experienced in the past? And what of those things are you able to let go of if you need to have a successful one into the future? What's your best memory of Vacation Bible School? As you think of that memory, what happened? What made it your best experience ever? Understanding that there's probably no way that that exact same thing is ever going to happen again. What about that memory would you like to bring forward into your planning for VBS this year? So we each have a past, right? We have these experiences of Vacation Bible School. A secret I want to tell you is I never attended as a child. That wasn't something my family ever did. So all of my experiences are adult experiences or the experiences that I've seen through the eyes of my 3 daughters. And so when I think of great experiences, it's when what I planned actually landed well with the students that I had in front of me. It's when I had a song that no one could get out of their head and we're still singing the next Christmas. It's the things that stick with you for me that are the good memories and those things that I wish for those people who are going to be with us at Vacation Bible School. All of us bring a past, all of us bring preconceived notions, and all of us bring ideas. But I want to invite us now to move into the present, into where we are today, and then to take a really extended look at our present before we start planning into the future. So for this first section of VBS present, we're going to be discovering our assets, what assets we have within our congregations and parishes. So I'd like you to look at the VBS planning tool. The first 2 pages are called Discovering Our Assets. And we're going to talk through that, and then I'll give you some time to work on it for yourself. The first thing, which would be very obvious when we talk about assets, is what is your budget? And if you don't know what your budget is yet, don't worry. Maybe what you need to write in this space is, who do I ask? Or the name of the person to ask to find out what your budget is. In the congregation that my husband serves, I am not in charge of VBS this year, but I'm going to use them as an example whenever I'm talking through this. Their budget is $800 for Bible school, but they often in the past have had more than 40 kids. And so $800 is probably not going to do it on its own, really. So another thing to consider is, what are some other funding streams that you could use? Would you consider charging a registration fee? That sometimes will actually get families to commit to coming because they put a little bit of money down. In our church, we would ask for some memorial funds because that's often those who want to honor those who have died are more than willing to forward our programs in this church. Or perhaps there are community grants that you could apply for that are interested in feeding the hungry if you're going to do something like that, or other things of that nature. So once you've figured out what your budget is or how you're going to make enough money to have a budget, you'll also consider your space. First, I'd like you to consider the spaces that Vacation Bible School has always been, all right? So in this congregation, we actually have an entire education wing with 8 classrooms, and that's where the rotations for Bible school occur. They use the gymnasium, which is the center of the education wing, for openings and closings, and they use the courtyard outside for games. So you consider your space. How do you usually use it? And what are the ways that you usually use it? Then I'd like you to open your mind. Consider, are there other ways that you could use that space than how you've always used it? That might be hard, and you might have to actually take a walk. Go to church and take a walk and see if there's other ways that the space could be used. And then don't commit to it, but just give yourself permission to dream. For instance, our church has been working on doing Faith 5 home huddles together. And so what if each of those classrooms, because we have lots of other space in this church, what if each of those classrooms could become a Faith 5 den for a family huddle? And that's the place where you go at the beginning every day to give your highs and lows and those kinds of things. After you've considered the space you usually use and some creative ways to use that space, move on to the other spaces in your church. What are the spaces that are maybe only adult usually, or that you don't use for Bible school, but you use for other congregational things, like the sanctuary in this church, like the fellowship hall, which is where the dinners usually happen, but not usually much education? How about that unused upper classroom that you've never really figured out what to do with before? I once had a church with an extra parsonage, and we took over the entire parsonage and put different things in each room one year. So think about outside of the box. What other spaces do you have? What other outdoor spaces do you have, or community spaces? And how could you dream about using those spaces? Because all of these things are assets for you. Another set of assets, of course, is our volunteers. Begin with those volunteers that you already have, the ones who've been showing up, the ones who have always helped you, or the ones that you've already recruited to do your VBS for this year. Write down what tasks they usually fulfill. What are the things that, who's the cookie lady? Who's the one jumping up in the front with all the motions for the music? Who does all of these things? And once you've gotten your list of volunteers and what they've always done, again, I'd like you to try thinking outside the box. Are they well suited for what they're doing, or did they just fill a need at one moment and now 20 years later they're still doing that same thing, but they're longing to be invited to do something they really like? If you don't know the answer to this, maybe it would be an opportunity for you to talk to your volunteers and say, hey, I know you've given us cookies for years and years and years. Is there something else you'd like to help us with? Or knowing them, like for instance, in this congregation, there's this grandpa who's more than willing to teach crafts if that's what we need him to do. But what he's really good at is individual conversations with young people. So I would love to invite him out of the craft room and into leading a small group where he gets to deepen in faith and deepen in conversation with a smaller group of kids and really get to know them over the course of Vacation Bible School. After you've got your regular volunteers, who else could you invite? Who else of a different generation than who's currently helping you? Who else who's maybe not available during the exact time that VBS is happening, but would be more than willing to fold all the stuff or make all the copies or set up the room or decorate? What teenager learned how to play guitar over the summer or is more than willing to do all of your Zoom stuff so that you don't have to worry about it? Think about those names and what qualities they have. For instance, in this congregation, Betty is a retired teacher who hasn't been involved in faith formation here at the church, but she told my husband the other day, I miss teaching. We're definitely going to ask Betty to help us out with Vacation Bible School this year. So try those things as well. Who else could you invite to be a part of this? All right. Thank you, St. Timothy's. Brainstormed on new areas to use and new volunteers to ask. Great. That is exactly what we were hoping for. Jacqueline, this will be a new challenge, but I hope it will be worth it for the young people. And Ken, the dog is Teddy. Great. We all learn all sorts of unexpected things, especially during VBS, right? All right, are we ready to keep going? So continuing in the present, we're going to move on to developing our goals, which is the pages 3 and 4 of our VBS planning tool. And we're only going to use the first section of each. And these you might not immediately know the answer, but let me try to give you some ways to think about this. Whenever we're planning anything, it is helpful to find out what the big umbrella is trying to do and then what the medium umbrella is trying to do. And then we're able to actually figure out the shape that our umbrella needs to take. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is think about congregation or parish goals. All right. Congregation or parish goals might be stated. You might already know what they are. They might be on your letterhead or on your website or something like that. Or they might be something you might have to think a little bit more about. My husband is usually a transitional minister, and so Firsts, the church that I'm sitting at, has very clear goals at this moment, and it's what they're actually going to be working on in all areas for the next 3 years. So their goals are, as a congregation, to connect more deeply with one another, to get more people involved in the ministries of the church, and to answer the question, who is FELC here in the city of North Platte? So they have some pretty clear goals that make it pretty easy for us to figure out what to do as far as VBS goes. But you might belong to a church where you'd have to think about that for a minute. One of the churches that I was the pastor of was really into serving Jesus with their hands and feet. And so even though that wasn't maybe on our letterhead, if it involved doing something for someone else, they were absolutely all for it. So one of their congregational goals would be mission work on behalf of others. Another church that I served was really into the Book of Faith initiative, and they wanted to put Bibles in the hands of people and then teach them how to use them. And so the whole congregation worked on that all the time. And so for sure, that would be something we'd consider when we came to Vacation Bible School. So that's your first task. Think about the congregation or parish and what would their overarching goals be? What would they be headed toward? What is God leading them toward? Then you might think about faith formation goals. What is your faith formation team doing, or your Sunday school team, or whoever works on Christian education? What are they trying to do on a regular basis? What does that umbrella look like? In this congregation, I'm on the faith formation team, and although we don't have stated goals, this is what I would say they are. They are rebuilding after a long hiatus, like 7 years without Sunday school. So they're in a rebuilding mode. They have the goal to engage every age group from pre-K with their parents all the way up to 6th grade in our regular Sunday faith formation. We've committed to a weekly practice of Faith 5 in family huddles. And maybe this one should be first, even though I'm going to list it last. Not to burn out our volunteers by asking too much of any one of them. Ooh, I see some nodding heads. Yes. Amen, sisters and brothers, right? And the thought with that, and what I have in parentheses, is that no one has to be in charge every single week. So that's what we're working toward in our faith formation, with our faith formation team. So you have 2 umbrellas there, congregation, parish, faith formation. And then the third is going to be, what do your families or your audience, whoever it is who's going to be coming to Bible school, actually need and actually want? And for me, this was hard to think about doing, but for me, it was also completely changed the way that Vacation Bible School worked in the parish where I was. And that was the simple thing of asking. So we developed a survey that we sent out to families, and we asked them, we gave them choices, right? So the choices were, when do you want Bible school to be? What time of day do you want Bible school to be? Do you want it to be 3 days or 4 days or 5 days? And I know that sounds crazy, and maybe like you'd rather just set a time and when everybody can make it, that's fine. What I found is by asking them, they actually started to feel some ownership in the program. Like, oh, I helped pick this day. Oh, they listened to me when I said that my kids take an afternoon nap and it has to be in the morning. And sending out a survey and then actually responding to what you hear, what you learn, is really important. The other thing that I learned from doing a survey was I asked them what their kids were into right now, because I can't always know. We don't always know everything that they're into. So we gave them lots of choices. The curriculum that we had picked that year happened to have, and the volunteers we had could do just about anything. So, do you like games? Do you like music? Do you like art? Do you like, do you like food? Do you like science? What are your kids into? And what do you think they'd get excited about doing? And that was really helpful for me in deciding what we were going to do at all. And asking them every year, I think, is really important because our families change. They grow, they get older, new families join. And so asking them what they might need is really an important thing. You have a sample planning survey that I used for hybrid vacation Bible school at home in 2020. So not all the questions you're just going to be able to grab, but at least it'll give you an idea of something to do. And I will tell you that it helps both for you to know what they need and for you to get them feeling like they're actually helping you to form the program rather than just handing them something and hoping that it works for them. So on your Vacation Bible School planning thing, there's a needs and preferences assessment section. And maybe you just want to write down some questions of what it is that you want to find out from your families. So those are your 3 things to do: congregation goals, faith formation goals, and then the needs assessment, and just those 3 things. And I will give you until 7:25 to work on that. So we have visited VBS past, we have dwelt together in VBS present, and now we're going to start dreaming for VBS future for this summer's program. So that's where the second part of our VBS planning tool is going to come in our developing goals section. You're going to revisit those congregation and parish goals and wonder how those goals might connect to an idea for Vacation Bible School. When I was looking at first goals, one thing I thought of is when they're wanting deep connection across all sorts of people who maybe don't know each other very well, that lends me to think that maybe we need to have multi-age groups rather than having the kindergartners together and the third graders together and so on. And that it might be a great idea to invite some adults to be a part of our VBS program. When it came to faith formation goals, how could those goals come into what you're doing as far as Vacation Bible School is concerned? For first, I think one of the things we're going to not worry about is whether we still have 40 kids or if it's just going to be 20 this year or maybe even 12. But that we really want them to have a positive experience and an experience that makes them excited about Jesus, and also that they hear so many times a day how much Jesus loves them and that they get that message down in their hearts. I also want to make sure, because we were worried about volunteer burnout, that we recruit enough volunteers that the work gets spread out and that everybody likes what they're doing. And if we've got something that nobody wants to do, we might just have to not do that. And that might sound crazy to you, but I think VBS is hard enough without the added stress of doing something that's really not your favorite. Of course, I'm not going to be able to answer the second section or the section about the needs and preferences assessment because I haven't done it yet. So I have to wait until I've heard back from my families before that can start to shape exactly what we're going to be doing. But even after you've done those 2 things and you've done your needs assessment, sorry, there. Even before you've done that, I think your next step can be to start developing those VBS goals. I'm going to challenge you, even though you now have a lot of information to work with, to focus on only 3 to 5. So pick your top 3, pick your top 5, knowing that those other things are there, but really to do it well, you're only going to be able to focus on 3 to 5. Then figure out how those goals can be measurable and achievable. So instead of being aspirational, like I wish that we could get 150 kids to come this year, that's my goal. That's probably going to be beyond what you're able to do unless you had 150 last time, right? So is it achievable, something that we can do? And how can we measure what it is that we are doing? And then finally, I know we're thinking into the future, but it's really helpful to already be thinking about next year. So how are you going to assess whether you reached your goals or how you achieved those goals or to what extent you did, so that you're able to start not from nothing next year, but to say, here's the goals we met, and now we've asked our volunteers and they said we met them. We asked our families and they said we met them. We asked the leadership and they said we met them. Now, what are we going to do into the future? To give you some examples for firsts, I would suggest for our 3 goals, connection, leadership, and encouragement. I would like to connect small groups to one another and give them time to deepen in connection with one another. So instead of maybe just sending them all sorts of places all the time, I'm going to encourage that we actually have some time with just those small groups to get to know one another and to spend some time together. For leadership, I would invite new leadership and equip them for success. Make sure that they have everything they need, and check in with them and help them in whatever way that I would be able to do so. And then encouragement. As we're trying to rebuild, I would encourage families to shape our program, to tell us what it is that they want and need, and then to invite them to let what they experience in Vacation Bible School shape them as well. And so those are some goals that you could, that's just an idea of some goals you could have. I'd measure the connection by making sure that we set up time for it. I'd measure whether we invited new leaders by finding out whether we had new leaders or not. And I would encourage by using those surveys both before and after Vacation Bible School. So now and then after it occurred, and be intentional about sending things home that families can use as well. So I'm going to give you another 10 minutes. Does that sound like enough? Yes, no? Is 10 minutes enough for this next section? Okay, I'm going to give you 10 more minutes for this next section of figuring out what your overarching goals are inside the umbrella of just VBS for this coming year. Welcome back. I'd like to see some of your goals. Would you be willing to give me what you got? Give me some ideas of what you're working on for your goals in the chat, or you can also just tell them to us if you'd like. That the kids leave happy every day and know they are loved. We're just happy to be able to offer VBS. Yep, a bigger volunteer base. Not numbers, but intentional conversations in which they share with others. These are some good ones, friends. Communication between age groups and older congregants and younger, and keep the conversations happening. Yes, this is exactly what I'm hoping to see. Simply having a community VBS, right? Working together, you're going to have to live into what that even means. And being open to that might just be the number one goal you have this year, Jacqueline. It's just what you've got to start with, right? I'm a big believer that VBS is 1 week, but we can make it something that really helps to form disciples of our specific congregations. And so having these goals that are specific to you are really important so that we're able to actually get those umbrellas all working together, and that as our kids grow and change and move into other parts of our programming, that they feel welcomed and loved there too, and they feel like they have a part of each of our churches. So thank you so much for that. Now it's going to all come together, and we're going to choose curriculum, right? The first thing I want to do is show you how to find it, okay? The best resource that I can gift to you tonight is the Build Faith article. That they put it out every single year. They look at as many vacation Bible schools as they can find, and they give you really good information about what's included and what the theological, where they're coming from theologically as well. So you don't have to do any of that work. It's already there for you. So I'm going to drop that in the chat, the Build Faith Vacation Bible School Top Picks. My friend Sarah Bentley Allred is the one who helped to write it this year, and it's just so helpful. It saves me like hours and hours and hours of work because they do it for you. So that's where you start. If you want to see some deeper things on some comparisons, I suggest Concordia Supply. I am not a rep for Concordia Supply, but I've used them for many years because they are willing to do it on credit. Like they will send things out to you, and you don't have to put on your credit card. They will actually charge your church for you. And if you have things that you need to return, they'll take them back. And so if you pick a curriculum that Concordia Supply has, it's really nice to look at their piece as well that compares things for you in a really easy way. And you can find that on the Feed My Faith website that I put in the chat as well. I might also consider some rotation model Sunday school. Spark House and Cokesbury both have some really good programs which are rotation model. They are meant for Sunday morning, but you can absolutely use them for vacation Bible school as well. And those websites are also on the Feed My Faith website. And then there's custom curriculum, right? So if you need more help, I'm still available after this workshop. And if you'd like to pick my brain, I'm more than willing to help you. I also do, I didn't intend to fall into this work, but I do custom curriculum for Sunday school and for confirmation. And so I have congregations who come to me and want me to write stuff just for them, and that's what I do. So if you're interested in doing that for Vacation Bible School, let me know. So those are the places to find it. And this is how you're going to select it. Start with those goals. As I was thinking about it, you know how you decide you're going to get a new couch for your living room, and you go to the furniture store and you see all these things, and then there's the perfect couch, and it is beautiful, and it is shiny, and it is the color you like, and it is as bouncy as you wanted it to be, and it has the hideaway bed you wanted. But when you get home and you actually measure the space, it doesn't fit in the space. Have you ever had that happen? Maybe it's just me. Or maybe you're shopping for tops at a clothing store and you're not on the right size rack, and you fall in love with something and it's just not the right size, and there isn't one in your size. Please start with your goals, because instead of looking at everything and falling in love with something that's shiny, it's better to take your goals and have that determine what your top 10 choices are, your top 5 choices are. And once you have your top 5 choices that align with your goals, then do your assets and needs matching. Make sure that it fits in your space, it's in your budget, your volunteers are going to be able to teach it and lead it, and that it fits your audience. And then that should help you whittle it down even more to a couple. And then for me, it actually comes down to gut check. So when you're coming down to your final curriculum section, which one are you actually excited to do? Which one do you think you could definitely sell to your families? Which one feels like it fits? And if that's it, you don't have to have any more information than that in the end, right? So what time is it? We got a couple minutes left. Are there any questions about how to find the curriculum or how to match it up before I send you away one more time? We're okay? All right, so I'm going to send you away one more time, and we'll come back at 7:55 for just some wrap-up stuff. Welcome back, everybody. What questions remain? We have 4 minutes to answer every question you have left about Vacation Bible School. It makes me nervous when there's no questions, because then I think maybe you didn't understand what I was trying to do. So if you have questions, now's your chance. I'll also ask if you have ideas. Do you know what you're going to go with? Are you walking away at least with a plan of how you're going to pick this out? Thanks, St. Timothy's. This says this was a great chance for you to lead us through our brainstorming session. That's the whole point. Glad to do that for you. Thank you.
I think one of the things probably that's going to be the most helpful for me is the survey.
Yeah.
The finding out, well, what community events that the kids are involved in that's going to be a conflict. What do the parents want from Vacation Bible School? What hours work best? Do they want a meal? Do they want, so that I haven't, how long do they think it should be? If,
Yeah.
so that we don't overwhelm anybody.
Yeah. And you're not going to be able to make everyone happy, but at
Oh,
least you'll
no.
have an idea of where
Yeah.
to start, right?
Yes. But I like that survey.
At St. Timothy's, I loved that Tree of Healing curriculum too when I looked at it. They really nailed it this year. And my previous congregation was really into ELCA World Hunger, so that would have been a perfect fit for them as well. So great. I'm so happy for you. Amber said it's just nice to just start the conversations about VBS, right? With the pandemic, we have not had anything written in stone, and so it's nice to actually look forward, isn't it? And to think about things that are going to be happening. Good and gracious God, we thank you so much for the gift of Vacation Bible School, for the gift of all of these leaders who are willing to think deeply about you and about your children. We ask you to send your Holy Spirit as we continue to plan and to dream and to scheme, that your Spirit might go out among our families and our congregations, and that your love will return to us as we seek to gather together in Bible school sometime this summer. Thank you always for your blessings and for the gift of this time together. In your name we pray. Amen.